What's up, everybody? How's it going? My name is Rob Diavalos, and this is my beautiful girlfriend, Caitlin, and this morning we're going to be going on our first ever vacation together. It is currently 5:30 in the a.m., and our bags are packed, and we are fixing to be heading out on the road towards the Great Crescent City, New Orleans. From Jasper, it's roughly about a 5 hour and 15-minute drive, so we should be getting there around 11 a.m. Check-in is technically not until 4, but usually the Wyndham where we're staying at always allows early check-in. Now, I've been to New Orleans roughly about 10 to 15 different times, but Caitlin has never been before, so I'm super stoked to carry her around and show her all the really cool spooky haunted spots. Well, here goes nothing, and we'll see you when we get down there. Right, it's time for a quick bite of breakfast. On the road again. I can't wait to get on the road again. All right, guys, so we just got checked in to the hotel, and check out this view right here. This is why I absolutely love staying at the Wyndham. Like, if I had a choice, I would always stay at the Wyndham on Royal Street. It's right beside Bourbon. You're almost always guaranteed to get an early check-in, and there's always an incredible view from the balcony. All right, guys, we're going down to the bottom and checking out the streets for a little bit. Well, we are officially on Bourbon Street. Hello. Oh.
Lucky for you, lucky.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, guys, this is the one and only Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo. Now, they actually don't allow filming inside, so we won't be able to show you everything, but we're gonna step inside for just a minute and we'll be back out in a few.
You know one of these, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. All right, guys, we are officially en route to a record shop in the French Market area. So we'll see how that goes.
Aww,
That's cool.
look at you, bird.
Well, we had to run back upstairs to the hotel for just a few minutes to take a break, so we're about to head back down now and try to go find this other little record shop that's somewhere within the vicinity. All right, guys, it is officially day 2, so we're about to head downstairs and grab some breakfast and then head out the door again, see what we find. I also managed to line up a ghost tour for tonight as well, so that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys, we are now headed towards the Louis Armstrong Park, which is really, really cool. I've been there a few times. Super duper big. It's also got some really cool art pieces that are just kind of displayed everywhere. So we're gonna go take her to check that out now. Check this out, guys. It's an entire purple house. And that is incredible. I love that. Purple's my favorite color.
And they got purple flowers for the purple.
God is mighty. God is holy. God is the beginning and the end. God is the first and the last. God is the beginning. God is all you need, my brother. I will give you praise. God says, I am.
All right, guys, we had to come back up for a quick hotel break, and then we'll be hitting the streets again in about 20-30 minutes.
Are about to go on a haunted ghost tour, right? Walking along the haunted French Quarter right over there. Now, you guys might need to know already what we're gonna be walking over. Do you guys know what is underneath the French Quarter today? Bodies, yes. But did you know that today there are still over 18,000 bodies buried under the French Quarter today? And you'll wonder why New Orleans is so haunted, right? Now that has everything to do with New Orleans' very first cemetery. That was the old St. Peter Street Cemetery. Now, there were a couple of excavations, right? The first one, that was a real one. They moved some bodies and artifacts so they could continue to rest in peace. But the other, a guy who lived in that neighborhood wanted to build a pool in his backyard. So he did what he was supposed to do. You know, he called before he dug. They came, they tested, they dug, they found stuff. Oh, look, he pretty much got his pool dug for free. But he actually calls it the Pool of Souls. St. Louis Cathedral. Who's been inside? Gold stars. Anyone else? Okay, everyone has homework, right? You gotta go in. It is so beautiful. It will make you feel like you're just transported back to Italy. Right now, it costs $0, and there is no attire requirements. You just go in. They do let the last group in at 3:45. Now, if you were to walk up to any building, like what it is today is not what it was then, but this is an exception, because there has always been a church on this plot of land ever since 1723, and it stayed there until New Orleans' first Great Fire of 1788. Now, in that fire, about 800 out of 1,000 buildings burned, right? So all of that startup, all of that progress, it was just gone. Now, they did complete construction on the cathedral in 1793. And then in the mid-1800s, there was a major overhaul. They added buildings, but very few materials do remain from that 1793 building, right? It is there. I just wish we knew exactly where so we could like go up and touch it. That would be amazing, right? Now, have you guys heard of the Voodoo Queen Marie Laveau, right? Amazing woman, right? She just wanted to help people. She was a big community activist, but no matter how busy she was, she always came here and attended Mass every single week. All right, now in case you guys were like, maybe you actually did want to, we got a mass schedule here. It's also on the front and it's also on their website, just in case you change your mind. But where are we right now? New Orleans, you guys failed that. Oh. Demerits for all of you, I tell you. Now here we are standing inside of Pirates Alley, which is a very old street and a very haunted street. Now, originally, it was created as a shortcut to get from Jackson Square up to Royal. Oh my gosh, right now, you guys, there is no one in Pirates Alley but us. That does not happen, right? So get your pictures now. That's actually really cool. But inside of this, there are 600 feet from end to end, right? Plenty of cool things have happened here, but the most interesting fact, at least I think it's interesting, is some people who live and work around Pirates Alley often have issues getting all of their deliveries because Pirates Alley does not show up on every single map. Isn't that weird? Like, given the day and age we live in, I always thought that was interesting. Now, pirates were known to come down here and sell their stolen wares right up against the church. That was a common thing. Now, it is also said that Jean Lafitte, when he wanted to be away from his home base, he would have some of his meetings up and down this alley as well. But that's not it, right? Now, we just talked about this building behind you guys, right? What do you think this building used to be? Close-ish? They wish wholeheartedly it was a brothel. Any other guesses? It was a prison. And not only that, this was the very first prison there ever was in New Orleans. And it was also one of the most violent prisons in the South. Because it did not matter who you were or what you did. They sent men, women, and children here. But this room is 712 Orleans. All right, so on our walk up here, you guys probably saw art galleries right over here. We have a bookstore over here, and people actually live right up above us. But this was the main room when Tennessee Williams lived here. Pretty cool. You know how over time in history, like a part gets cut off, now it's a gallery, another part gets cut off for a bookstore, but this is the main room when he lived here. But before Tennessee Williams lived here, this was the caravan of live animals. So these were people's like first and only opportunity to see like lions or tigers or bears. Thank you, thank you. And also anteaters and things of that nature. But it was just too close, too personal, right? No one wanted to come in here. So they're like, well, we need to get people in. What can we do? I know, let's add more exotic animals. That'll get people to come in. Unfortunately, that wasn't quite the case, right? Even less people wanted to come in. So then they decided to put people into the circus and to have human acts. But it did not matter what kind of acts were being performed because the money that the circus was bringing in, it wasn't even equaling what it cost to feed the animals. Now that cost a pretty penny, right? If you take one lion, it takes about 100 pounds of meat per day, right? So they had to do something. So the ringleader and the head acrobat together, they came up with this daring sensation that they called the hangman's death drop. Right, so he'd be up on the trapeze, he would be swinging, he would fall, making it look like he's about to break his neck. And then at the very last second, he would stand up, he would take a bow, showing it was all just an act. Right back of you. Anyways, we're talking about this right over here. Now we're on the backside of St. Louis Cathedral. This is called St. Anthony's Courtyard. Right, so originally it was always designed to be very beautiful gardens ever since the city's founding in 1718. But it was also burial grounds. And this is also where duels happen. Right, so you know with duels that one person walks away and one person does not, right? Now that is why they say that if you walk by that gate around 3 o'clock in the morning, you can sometimes still hear the clang of the swords. All right, this is the Plaza de Arms Hotel. Isn't it gorgeous? It is really gorgeous, and honestly, it's very well located. You got the hustle and bustle of Jackson Square outside, and then when you want to relax, you got this courtyard, you got the one around the corner, and did you see how inviting that pool looks? So many times I just want to be like, oh well, let's just jump in, right? Let's just dive in and enjoy it. So nice during the summer. Now there are 7 historic buildings on this property. 5 were built in the 1800s and the other 2 were added later on in the 1960s. But remember earlier when I said when you walk up to a building, what it is today is not what it was then? So what was on this plot of land in the 1700s? Well, they felt like it was a prison, and they certainly felt like it, bodies too, but they felt like it. Close. Ish, close-ish. Any other guesses? No, they felt like this was a torture chamber. Because this was the very first school in colonial Louisiana. Get it, right? Yeah, they thought about it. Everyone thinks about that about schools. Now, this school stayed on this plot of land until the first Great Fire of 1788, right? During that time, like, flames were coming out of this building in all directions. And that's when the headmaster was told that there were still a few boys trapped inside. So without any fear for his own well-being, he ran straight into that burning building to try to save them. Unfortunately, right, the boys and the headmaster all perished in the fire. Not all the boys, just the boys who were trapped that the headmaster was trying to save, right? It's very, very sad. There's actually a couple stories very similar to that right here throughout the French Quarter as well. But people who stay here today continue to have experiences. You guys stay here?
Yeah.
You having any experiences?
Our room is not haunted.
So it can really happen on almost anyone. Right? There was actually someone who was telling me earlier, room 222. Apparently that was like a haunted one. They had an experience that last time and then they stayed here again. They just got here.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah. 222, right? Have any of you guys stayed here before? Anyone staying here now? Not at all. Okay. Probably a good one. Oh, you are! Have you
That's why we stay here.
of course, have you had any experiences? I love it, huh? Yes, I love it. The night is still young, right? Because it is true that you are absolutely able to have an experience here. So there was a lady just reading a book in her room, right? No other sounds, just reading a book. And she distinctly heard someone falling down the stairs right outside her room, landing at the bottom, and then moaning, right? She thought someone was in need of help, so she threw her book, opened the door, expecting to see somebody, but instead found nobody there. Now, there was also no explanation for what could have caused this sound. Now, there was another lady who was just trying to get some sleep in her room, but every time she fell asleep, the TV turned on at maximum volume. So she had to keep doing the same thing, right? Grabbing the remote, turning it off, setting it back down on the nightstand, and laying her head back down on the pillow, right? As soon as she fell asleep, boom. Now, this happened over and over again until she got fed up. So she sat straight up in bed and she was like, "Stop it. That's enough. No more turning the TV on because I am trying to sleep." No, it is true. The TV did not come back on for the rest of the night. But isn't it interesting that all it took was a stern voice to get them to behave? Isn't that interesting? Now, there was also a couple who stayed here and they kind of shared a balcony with the person that was staying next to them. Right now, they had dinner reservations and they were about to leave, but so they were wanting to enjoy it for a few minutes. While they were out there, they had an instant connection with this elderly gentleman that was staying in the room next to him. It was so much, it was like they knew each other forever, right? But they had only just met. So the couple goes to dinner, comes back, and goes up to that hotel front desk. What can you tell me about the man staying in the room next to me? I'm sorry, there's no one staying in that room next to you, right? Now they don't want to appear crazy at the hotel they're staying at, so they started to plead their case. Now, after a few back and forths, the front desk was like, "Oh, him? He's our ghost." Right? Because those are the types of things that you can experience here. Very much practical joke energy, right? From boys who are not afforded the same as us to live a long and happy life. So whether it is like your doors start wiggling between 2 and 3 a.m., or you could have sworn that you left your hotel key on the little table next to the door, and now you found it in the middle of the bathroom floor. You didn't leave it on the bathroom floor, right? Those are the types of things. Now, I will tell you, though, that elderly gentleman up on the balcony, he is the headmaster. So he patrols the grounds, he tries to keep those boys in line, but the biggest thing is he does want the guests to have a really good time. Because right around here is, I just consider it a safe haunted hotel, right? Also, one other thing, when there are really, really little kids on this tour, we always see something in this window right here. white building on the corner, right? On the other side of this white building is Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop. Now that is the most haunted bar in all of New Orleans, right? Like if you go to one bar while you're here, make it be that one. Right now, Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop was built in the 1700s, but for goodness sakes, if anyone tells you it is the oldest bar in America, you can politely call them a liar, because it's definitely not true. But it is a clever marketing thing because it is the oldest building that houses a bar. It has not always been a bar because their liquor license doesn't go before like 1923. So it's actually pretty cool. But the pirate Jean Lafitte and his brother Pierre, which of course is a different Pierre than that ghost table, actually used that shop as a smuggling, right? That was their whole head of their smuggling operation, was housed out of that bar. The last stop. Now we are actually talking about this building right here, this 3-story gray building. Who knows what that building is? Yes. Yes, it is the Lalaurie Mansion, on what is known to be the most haunted location in all of New Orleans. So who has seen American Horror Story Coven? Man, there's like 11 of you. You guys are my favorite. They're like, what's American Horror Story? Right? Now, that show is very entertaining, but it's not exactly historically accurate. Right? Used to really drive me bonkers about it. But it does paint a good picture about who Delphine Lalaurie really was. A demon in the form of a woman, and that is already being way too nice to her. Like, this right here is a real-life house of horrors. Like, in your mind, if you can think of the worst, most torturous things, it was at least 10 times worse inside of there. Right now, during the time she lived there, she had about 50 enslaved people, and 20 of them disappeared without a trace. So we know what she did with them, right? What a woman. And I don't mean that in a good way. Now, she actually got married to her first husband at the age of 14. And that wasn't even a big deal in those days because you could get married at the age of 12 as long as you had parental consent. So she lived with her husband for a few years, right? And then right before she had her first baby, her husband died of mysterious circumstances. So almost right after, she met and married her second husband, right? So she's about 20 years old now. Now her second husband would have been the one that we would have liked, right? Very much like a strong, tough guy, her protector, but not in that cringy way. Now, he's also a really good friend of the pirate Jean Lafitte. But guess what happened to him?
Mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, right? We know what she's doing to these husbands. And then it wasn't until the age of 40 that she met and married her third husband, the doctor from France by the name of Louis Lalaurie. So, in 1831, they bought this plot of land and they built their home, which did include quarters for their enslaved people, since that was just a pretty common practice around this time in the South, especially if you were wealthy. But it literally took no time at all for rumors to start circulating that she was misusing and abusing her enslaved people, right? So much, they actually sent lawyers to her front door, which is right here, on 3 separate occasions, right? Every time she would open the door, deny the allegations, and they believed her. So they left, right? These were lawyers, right? So she either had to be a really good liar, or maybe the lawyers of the 1800s aren't as great as the lawyers of today. But almost right after this, she was caught red-handed, and it has everything to do with his second-story gallery right here. Because Delphine Lalaurie was running over there, chasing a young enslaved girl who was about 9 years old, and her name was Leah, right? Chased her with a bullwhip until Leah fell to her death on the ground below. And they had no idea, right? They only figured it out when they were in the carriages going up these streets and stopping in front of this same mansion. So they knew exactly what was going to happen to them, and there was nothing that they could do about it, right? It is ever so sad. And then in 1834, a fire broke out here, but she didn't even want to let the firemen in. Of course, they got in eventually, and they found a woman that was chained to the stove. That woman admitted to starting the fire as a means of suicide. Right? She couldn't stand to be in that house with that woman for one more moment. It was almost like she was trying to let the public know about the atrocities that were happening inside of the house. Now, conveniently located above the kitchen is the room that most of the enslaved lived. Right? Because she thought not only could she free herself, she could also free most of the other people inside of there as well. Right? But it was more than that, because she was deathly afraid of being taken to the uppermost room, because that is the room that you don't come back from, right? So people started to search the house, and of course they found the room. The first thing they found were the smells, right? The smells alone would tell you that this is where she housed the mutilated bodies of her enslaved people. But it was more than just that. Like, they found people with their limbs that were just torn and stretched, while other people were shackled to the beds, and the entire bed was nailed into the wall. Now, there was one poor soul. He had holes drilled into the very top part of his head. Not only did Delphine leave a wooden spoon next to him so she could stir his thoughts, as if that's not crazy enough, right? But he actually had very deep gashes going up and down both arms and legs. This woman took handfuls of worms and packed each gash full. Isn't that terrible? Absolutely terrible. Now, have you guys heard of Ozzy Osbourne? Yes. May he rest in peace, of course. Now, his son Jack had a TV show called Portals to Hell. Have you heard of that one? Amazing show. Now, why this is so cool for me to mention to you guys on a tour is they were the very first paranormal investigations teams allowed to go inside the mansion after like 22 years, right? 22 years they had denied and declined everyone until Jack and his team came, right? And then if you wanted to know what the inside of the house looked like, I used to have to tell you, you have to Google the address, right? 1140 Royal Street, and you will see it's inside. But I really don't have to do that anymore, right? Oh no, we're good. It's not a slingshot. Not a slingshot. We'll wait for you to go back up. Play some good music, right? That's all you gotta do. Just play some music. Okay. So yeah, and then you just be able to see inside the mansion. But if you watch that episode, you get to see them walking through the house, setting up cameras, using their paranormal investigation equipment, including 3D mapping, which I find very cool. Right? You actually get to hear from the caregiver, who is absolutely scared to go into certain rooms in the daytime by herself because of the crazy things that still continue to happen. Right? You actually even hear, like, I get a mini interview from a lady who lived here in the 1960s, and to this day, like, she is completely scared. She has never been able to get over it, and she even tried to go back 20 years later. But if you do watch it, you will find out that those 3 examples I gave you are pretty much considered to be G-rated to everything else that happened there. So if any part of that scared you, maybe don't watch it before bed, right? It's about 35 minutes. But that is season 1, episode 7 of Portals to Hell on HBO Max. Just in case you guys are nosy like me.
Frank is where?
At the Voodoo Museum.
Ready, and I have one of their little things in a hand. Real quick. Awesome. My birthday.
That dessert one looks good.
Tastes kind of like those chocolate buzz balls.
I like those.
Let's see if it'll stick and not fall. Stay. Okay. Stay.
There we go.
There we go.
So normally we have these.
It tastes like real fruit. I think it has real fruit in it. Well, guys, that's a wrap on my birthday vacation weekend. I'm now officially 34 years old, and I look forward to being around to entertain you guys for many more years to come. Thank you all so much for joining me on this little adventure. If you enjoyed it, make sure to show your support by smashing that like button and subscribing to my channel. Until next time, guys, stay safe, stay spooky. Peace!